Okay, good evening and welcome to the Lorraine Public Library System Board of Trustee meeting for Thursday, June 18th, 2020. We are streaming via YouTube channel as well. So for today's meeting, are there any conflicts of interest with any of the board members? Seeing and hearing none, we will proceed. Item number 2020-048, approval of the minutes of May 21st and June 10th, 2020.
I need to take roll call for
Okay.
Okay. And I also
go ahead.
And I also want to add that we have to add a resolution 2020-059 authorizing the post-issuance compliance policy. And I'll go into what that is when we get to that, but there is an addition to the agenda.
Okay, and then I will let you read that at that point.
Right.
And just one quick reminder that when we have a motion and a second to the motion, would you clearly state your name for the minutes?
Okay.
So do you want to do roll call?
Sure. Dr. Badillo? Is she here?
No.
No, okay. Colonel Belanger?
Here.
Ms. McClellan?
Here.
Ms. Snipes?
She's absent today.
Okay. Ms. Torres? I thought I saw her come in. Ms. Torres?
No.
Ms. Sheehan?
Yes, here.
Yes, good.
And was that, who was that?
I don't see her on.
It's Millie.
Okay. Oh, you're there? Okay. All right.
Can
Ms.
you
Sheehan?
hear me?
Now
I'm
we
here.
can- All right. And Dr. Thomas?
Yes.
Okay.
And who else said I'm here? I heard I'm here.
Millie.
That was
I said I'm.
And what, do we have a Dr. Badillo on yet? Okay.
right.
Okay, good. All righty, then we'll move on to the agenda item. Welcome everyone else on the staff who could make today's call, and to welcome to Roger Riachi. So we're going to go into item number 2020-048. Again, the approval of the minutes of May 21, June 10th of 2020. May I have a first?
So moved.
Name? Was that Keith?
Ethel.
It's Keith.
Second, Ethel.
Okay.
Are you ready for roll call?
Yes, please.
Colonel Belanger?
Here.
Ms. McClellan?
Yes.
Ms. Torres? Millie? Ms. Sheeman?
Yes.
Dr. Thomas?
Yes. Item 2020-049. This is the approval of the fiscal officer's report.
The May financials were included in your board packet. We had a cash balance at month end of $15,249,607. Cash balance in operating funds was $11,147,737. And operating funds encumbered was $9,820,820. The total unencumbered cash balances as of May 31 was $13,449,444. The revenues year to date were $5,063,574, which was 47.2% of the estimate without advances or transfers. PF revenue is down from the beginning of the year by $169,177, or a negative 8.74%. As indicated last month, the reduction in PLF revenue is due to the economic activity and reduction in state tax receipts. The expenses year to date were $3,772,423, which was 26.3% of estimated expenses without advances or transfers. Expenses with encumbrances total $5,572,586, which was 38.8% of annual estimated expenses. So we're on track except for the PLF revenues. One thing I need to caution us is the property tax. We shouldn't be see any effect with property tax receipts, except I know Cuyahoga usually collects their tax receipts by June 20th. They've extended it to August 20th. So I'm wondering if the other counties are also experiencing. I know I live in Erie County. I usually have my tax bill right now, so we'll probably get our real estate taxes later than we have in the past. This month, you'll see we are required to adopt the tax budget. As required, the budget hearing was advertised and held yesterday. There was no one in attendance except me. The Lorraine County Budget Commission has waived the requirement pursuant to the Ohio Revised Code. They asked that we provide a simplified version. The tax budget is a financial plan for the operations of the next calendar year. What I did in the tax ballots is show a reduction of 20% in revenue for the PLF, because that's how we were advised by the auditor of state. But the tax budget is basically just giving us, so the Budget Commission can state what our levy revenues are going to be for next year, and so that we can start spending money when we adopt the appropriations on January 1st of 2021. And that's my report.
Okay, thank you, Lisa. There was, we were told on the Oakland board meeting on Friday that the governor's office right now does not want to touch the rainy day fund for 2020, but if they need to, they're talking already about balanced budget for 2021, and that's going to be potentially an open area that they're going to be looking to secure some money. And right now their deficit was $2.43 billion on the state level. So that's a pretty significant number. Is there a question for Lisa about anything in the financial report?
Yeah, hey, Lisa, it's Keith.
Yeah.
Could you, in the beginning, what was the PLF funding shortfall you said? It was right in the very beginning.
Yeah, the shortfall is negative 8.7%, so $169,176.
And that's year
Compared to last year.
All right. Yep. Thanks.
Comparison to last year. And the whole thing is I believe the PLF was increased this year.
I thought, yeah.
Yeah, so and we were expecting the increase, but now with the pandemic, we're less than we were last year. So hopefully when the state taxes are due, I think July 15th, hopefully we see a little bump in August.
Oh, so we can actually see a bump, like, so the PLF, does it change every month? It doesn't change monthly.
Yeah, it changes every month because it's based on income tax and sales tax and the CAT tax. So it's whatever the state receives.
Yeah, okay.
It's a percentage of what the state receives. So, and it's just not us, the local government funds for municipalities, everything, we're all basically calculated the same way.
Got it. All right. Thank you.
Yeah.
If there are no other questions for Lisa, would you like to do roll?
Sure. Colonel Belanger,
Yep. Yes.
Ms. McClellan,
Yes.
Ms. Torres, Ms. Sheeman,
Yes.
Dr. Thomas.
Yes, and was that Millie?
Yes.
Okay, thank you. All righty, moving on to the report of the director, Anastasia.
All right. First of all, I want to start off by saying thank you again to Lisa. I don't know how many times we can say thank you. It's never going to be enough for all that you've done for us. And you set us up for success. And I can speak for the staff and say that we're all super, super thankful for what you've done for us.
Welcome.
Tremendous. So thank you.
Who?
That's good. So I also wanted to go over a few things. Hopefully you saw this already, either in your inbox or just somewhere in the news, that we, as you know, are reopening on Monday with reduced hours. So we'll be open from 1 to 6 with noon to 1 for our seniors and immune compromised patrons. And just getting to that point, as you know, as I've shared with you over the last several weeks, we've been working off of that reopening roadmap and getting all of our cleaning protocols in place, guidelines with helping patrons. We're really trying to make sure that the staff understands how to safely help people with their computers, with devices. We're developing talking points for the staff, so if they're questioned on things, they understand why we've made the decisions we've made, and they can communicate that to the public. We're going to have all of our management in place on Monday when we open to act as ambassadors. So as the public's coming in, you know, that first point of contact is going to be the managers, talking with them and explaining, like, welcome back to the library. Here's how things are different for right now. And we're really, really excited. We feel really good about where we are and that we're ready. And, you know, since we closed, the lockers were installed at the South Branch and Main Library, and they're now online. So we not only have the North Ridgeville lockers and the drive-up window, but now we've got these other lockers. So we've got lots of ways for people to receive library service, at least as it relates to materials, even if they don't feel comfortable coming in. So we feel good about that. And we've put all the information about opening on our website, which is really good. And we do have some reports from other libraries who have gone before us. So Westlake Porter Library opened yesterday, and I heard really great things about how that went with the public. I know that Euclid Library, Twinsburg, and Warren Trumbull County Library have also opened their doors, and Cleveland Heights Library opened their lobby. And we're hearing really good things about how that's going. So the public has missed us in general, and the conversations with the public have gone really well. So we're feeling really confident about that. We're still quarantining our materials. And we were informed this week, we're really thankful that statewide delivery service is going to be starting on June 29th. And essentially that's what moves all the materials around CleveNet. So as those CleveNet libraries come back online, we're finally to the place where those materials can move between our libraries. So we're really excited about that. As I mentioned to everyone last Friday, I participated in a webinar that the American Library Association was doing on reopening and library financing and how all of that has changed in the era of COVID. And it was really good to be able to share some of the things that we're doing and how we're really innovating, even though on the other side, we're dealing with the things Lisa was talking about with less revenues and just having to act very strategically, which we always do, but we're forced to do it even more. And how that's a good exercise for all of us to always be sharpening those skills. So that was really positive, lots of good feedback from librarians. I got great emails after that, excited about the things we were doing. And last, I wanted to share that we did receive the $4,995 grant from the state library to provide that equipment for the little library on the lake. So that was really wonderful. And we were talking with the health department, Lorraine County Public Health, about this, and we've partnered with them on a lot of active kind of things, and they are going to reimburse us for equipment that we buy up to another $1,000. So that's, you know, $6,000 that we're not taking out of the budget, but we're using to provide equipment for that little library on the lake. So we're going to be able to outfit that really nicely with these grants and other things that are out there. So we've got a lot to talk about with Avon later on, but that's where I'll end right now for my report. So thank you.
When's the little library on the lake? When's it supposed to open?
Well, we were actually just talking about that. So we are in the middle of them still putting it together. We're thinking, we were just talking about this. My guess is it's probably going to be a little bit later in July. So we're probably looking at about 5 more weeks. We're hoping to have it in place sooner, but with all the things we have to do, it's just supply chain is different now. So, you know, like even getting bicycles, because everyone has been at home, bicycle shops are sold out. So we,
Maybe.
which is good because that means people are doing stuff, but it's bad for us trying to source bicycles. So, you know, it's just, it is what it is. So
I think late July is really still timely, actually.
yeah, we're excited. I think the parks are really excited. We're excited. We're just trying to wrap up conversations with the city of Lorraine just so that we can get the electrical work started. But we're getting excited too.
Anastasia, I have a question. It's Gloria. How is that going to be manned? How are you guys planning on, are you going to be rotating people, or is there how's that whole going to function?
Well, so it's essentially an extension of the main library and our outreach. So it'll be staffed by folks that work out of the main library building. And on Sundays, it will be staffed by management. So the managers have volunteered to take all of the Sundays, and our staff will be there. We talked with the parks about being there Tuesday through Saturday, hopefully Sunday, I think we can do. Tuesday through Sunday from 10 a.m. until 2 p.m. And that was the hours that they told us were peak hours of usage, where we would see the most people at the beach. So that's what we went with.
Okay, thank you. Awesome.
I'm excited. It's gonna be good. That concludes my report.
Okay, anything else for Anastasia? Just thank you for keeping everything moving as we go along. There's a lot of excited patrons waiting for the library to open for sure. We sent out a notice to the Friends for the request of Jennifer Black, so they know to look for it as well. So everybody's getting happy. In terms of committee reports, there are none because we have not met. Audience participation. Cheryl, do you want to add some things today?
No, I'll be very brief, but I will just give you an update. You may be wondering where we are with the new position that we created as part of the last contract negotiations. And the training for that is scheduled to happen within the next few weeks, and will be done by the end of July. So everybody will be on board with that. That's opted to take it. You know, we have some special situations with maybe not every staff member will take the promotion, but most of them did. Actually, all but one did, so it's going to be very good. And to go hand in hand with that, I won't read them out loud to you, but you will notice in your board packet, I presented you with a list of core behaviors for all library employees. That's something that Anastasia and I have been discussing, and my goal since the beginning of the year to go with the new mission, vision, and values. And we have determined a set of 10 behaviors that all library employees will have to exhibit in order to be successful members of the team here. And we are hoping that it's going to be instrumental in changing the culture and shaping the culture rather than changing it. I mean, shaping it and creating a very positive atmosphere here. I could read them if you like, but they're in your packet there.
And I just so you know, I'll be bringing those back to you next month for your approval, so we can add them to the board adopted policies to supersede the code of patron conduct, which is what we have been working under for a while now.
Yeah.
Okay, thank
That's
you.
it. You're welcome.
Okay, very good. Anything from Rick or Michael? No, everybody's good? Yeah, okay. Friends of the library, we've not been able to conduct any business unless there's anything you want to say, Ethel, about Columbia.
No, just that I did get the email from Jennifer and responded, so that's good.
Okay. Foundation of the Lorraine Public Library System will be meeting in July. We're hoping it can be in person. That hasn't been determined yet. And there really isn't anything right now under other. We'll go on into the new business. So item number 2020-050 is the approval of the 2021 tax budget.
This is Keith. So moved.
Tiffany, second.
I'm sorry, Tiffany, was it second?
Yes. Are there any questions? Talisa?
No.
Okay, then we can do roll call.
Dr. Badillo,
Aye.
Colonel Belanger,
Yes.
Ms. McClellan,
Yes.
Ms. Torres,
Yes.
Ms. Sheeman,
Yes.
Dr. Thomas.
Yes. Item number 2020-051, this is the approval of increase to appropriations namely $25,000 to the Avon levy fund.
This is Keith, so moved.
Millie, second.
I can, Lisa, if you want to, or I can speak to this, whatever you. prefer.
You can go ahead. It's
So,
for,
so this increase to the appropriations is to cover the cost of the lockers that we're proposing later on in the agenda.
Okay.
That's, I don't know if there's anything else we would need to add to that, Lisa. but that's it.
no, that's the only thing.
Okay.
Okay, roll call, please.
Dr. Badillo,
Aye.
Colonel Belanger,
Yes.
Ms. McClellan,
Yes.
Ms. Torres,
Yes.
Ms. Sheeman,
yes,
Dr. Thomas.
Yes. Item number -2020-052, approval of the creation of the Bike Share Program Fund.
This is Millie, so moved.
Tiffany, second.
Okay, I can speak to this as well. So as part of the Go Lorraine Bike Share that we're participating in with the Metro Parks and Lorraine County Public Health, a part of that is to be able to accept donations to administer the fund. So if there, I don't know how to say, there's like an economic development piece to this bike share program. And so we'll be acting as the fiscal agent for that. So as people donate to that program, obviously it would come in there and then we would, you know, expend the funds from there.
A roll call, please.
Dr. Badillo,
Aye.
Colonel Belanger,
Yes.
Ms. McClellan,
Yes.
Ms. Torres,
Yes.
Ms. Sheeman,
yes,
Dr. Thomas.
Yes. Item number 2020-053, approval of the creation of the State Library Grants Fund.
This is Keith, so moved.
Ethel, second,
Good, and I will speak to this too. So as I mentioned earlier, the library received the grant from the state library, and there's also going to be an opportunity coming up where the state library will have $1 million from the IMLS pass through for the CARES Act, and that's going to be a grant program for all libraries. So rather than try to set up different funds for these different things all coming from the state library, because we anticipate applying for more state library fund grants in the future, we figured let's create this so that the grant we just received can be part of that, but then also this other, hopefully the IMLS grant, we will get that as well, and that can go in there. Just to make it easier for accounting purposes, because we have to report back to the federal government how we expended the funds. It makes it cleaner.
Okay.
I have a quick question on that, Anastasia. Does that mean that every grant that we get will be just all grouped together, or are they going to have each individual, like, it's going to be here under that title?
So, right. So this is sort of the, just for those ones that are under that umbrella, but Lisa and I were discussing that the way because we're getting so many of these things, we're starting to associate them with projects. So each of these grants, each that we're receiving is going to have a project code, and then things will be, that's how we're going to track it. So as we've been getting like 10,000 here and, 25 there and all of that, we have traditionally in the past, because we weren't getting as many, we're putting those all into the outreach budget and we were expending from there. But since these things are not necessarily just outreach, they're going to be given a project code. And then, like I said, that's how we'll associate the costs. Is that the best way to describe
Yes.
it?
Yeah, the way to
Yes.
describe.
Okay.
Okay, thank you. Thank you very much.
Yeah, it's just easier for audits time too, to be able to track, where we got these funds, how we expended them.
Yes, thank you.
You're welcome.
All right, Dr. Badillo,
Aye.
Colonel Belanger,
Yes.
Ms. McClellan,
Yes.
Ms. Torres,
Yes.
Ms. Sheeman,
yes,
Dr. Thomas.
Yes. The next three items we'll be discussing, and it'll be mainly Anastasia explaining some of this into these we're not going to do it on block. We're going to do them separate, but you receive some information in your packet about them, and then Anastasia is going to speak to these as we move through these. So the first is item 2020-054. This is authorizing the issuance of notes. First, please.
Keith, so moved.
Ethel, second.
Gloria, second.
Okay, thank you.
And Lisa probably can speak to this one and the one that's going to be later. This is, well, if you want to, can you give a brief explanation of this?
Sure,
one?
it's to authorize the issuance of notes of not to exceed $9 million. Right now, I'm working on the first draft of the official statement since that's due next week. And the final official statement is due July 27th, and our closing would be scheduled on September 7th. So once you adopt this resolution, we start getting really busy on getting the documents. The official statement is another word for it in the private sector is prospectus. And I went through this before when we built North Ridgeville, Columbia, did the DeMoncus renovations and the main library renovations. So it's just standard practice. And these would be a tax exempt bonds and notes.
And these are all for Avon, correct?
The way it's drafted up is most of it is used for Avon, but if we need it for other projects, we can also use it for other projects. So let's say the bids come in for Avon at 8 million. If we have $1 million left, the way it's written up is that if we need it in other buildings, we can use it. We don't want to restrict ourselves. So, and that's how we handled it when we did the official statement back in 2003. So, or two, a long time ago. So the whole thing is if you block yourself in with one facility, then you're really blocked. So this, if we make it wide, the whole scope of the system, then if we have money available, we can use it in other places. So if somebody needs a new roof, we can use it on a new roof if we needed to.
Correct. Okay, thank you.
But the whole thing is the Avon levy portion would only pay for what's used in Avon. If, let's say Columbia uses it, Columbia portion would be used. Avon would just pay for what's used in their building. And that's the accounting of it.
Great, thank you.
Yeah, that's very important to make sure we say.
Yeah.
Yeah, so, right. So debt service, it would be paid only, like you said, on the Avon portion with the Avon.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. And that's something that the, when we get audited by the state auditor, that they will carefully look at because we can't commingle funds. So we have to be very careful on that.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, roll call, please.
Dr. Badillo,
Aye.
Colonel Belanger,
Yes.
Ms. McClellan,
Yes.
Ms. Torres,
Yes.
Ms. Sheeman,
Yes.
Dr. Thomas.
Yes. Item number 2020-055. This is the approval and to enter into an agreement with Rfq Contracting for the owner's representation services related to the Avon Branch Library project. First, please.
Millie, this is first.
Thank you. Second.
Ethel,
Thank you.
All right, so I did send out, well, first of all, in the agenda, there was a link to the RFC's proposal, but then I also shared last night the proposals for all the firms that we interviewed. But I thought before even getting into that, it might be helpful to back up a little bit and explain the whole process that we're going to be going through and why the owner's representative is really crucial to that. And I know Lisa will weigh in on this too if I miss anything, but the idea here with entering into a contract with an owner's rep is essentially to give us help as we start embarking on this project. So when we looked at all the different ways that a public building can be built, there's different construction delivery methods. But since we're at the point we are now where we're just getting started, when we looked into it, it made a lot of sense for us to engage with an owner's rep who's going to be our eyes and ears and advocate all the way through. Because we know this project has a lot of things that complicate it, that we're renovating and we're adding onto a building. At this point, we don't own that building. We're leasing it from the city. So there's some complication there. There's just a lot of things going on. And frankly, a lot of things that will be helped by having a partner who can walk us through this. So the idea with the owner's rep is to bring someone on first as the owner's rep, and then from there, as I explained in the email, and actually in this construction schedule, the idea is to engage there first, and then the board will select the architects, the design professionals, and the construction manager at risk, who are going to be, that's going to be the team that's going to ultimately, build the building and turn us the key, give us the keys at the end of it. But I invited Roger to be part of this conversation tonight because I think it would be really helpful for you to hear what an owner's representative provides to the library, what that service will look like. And then also I did send out the schedule to give you an idea. This is the first time we've actually been able to see this all the way laid out. So when we were doing the levy campaign, it was all very theoretical because we weren't sure if we were going to pass the levy. So now that we are past that, and now that Lisa and I have been working on this bond issuance with Bricker and Eckler and Stiefel, now we're to the point where we're going to be lining up funds to get started. So rather than have those funds just sit there for a while, we wanted to really hit the ground running, especially since the community's excited about the project. So I wanted to ask if, Roger, you are there, I see you. If you would, going in a little bit and explaining to everyone about what you were explaining earlier, which is like the different methods of delivery and why a library might choose one or the other, and how public construction works right now.
All right, great. Thank you, Anastasia. Good evening, everybody. So basically, in the public arena of construction in the past, the public entities used to have one method only of construction, and that would have been you hire an architect, the architect designs the building, they issue plans, documents, and specifications, and you publicly bid it, and you bid it to a general contractor, and the low bidder would be awarded the project, and then they went and executed the plans and did the project. You as the owner did not have much say as to who that contractor would be or what are the subcontractors that they would be hiring to perform the work. It was entirely up to them to do all that. About 8 or 9 years ago now, the state of Ohio passed construction reform, and during that construction reform, they expanded the method of construction from just the hard bid general contracting to a few different ones. One of them would be the construction manager at risk, which is the CMR, which is what you're suggesting to follow as your construction method for this project, which is a great one because it gives you a lot of flexibility. You can select your contractor. You can also have some say into the list of subcontractors and who's going to work on your project and who these subcontractors would be. The construction manager at risk, the CMR, will develop a list, but you as an owner can add subcontractors to that list that you've had good success with in the past. So the way the process would work is you would be engaging still an architect independently, and the architect is going to be responsible for your design. You're going to be engaging a construction manager at risk, and he's going to be the construction manager at risk will be responsible for the construction. So as you can see, there's going to be a lot of moving parts and pieces, and that's where the owner's rep would come into play. As the owner's rep, we would be working with the board and the administration from day one And if you look at the schedule that we put together, we would work with you on developing and issuing the requests for qualifications, the RFQs, all the way through the selection process, bringing the architect on board, bringing the contractor on board, working throughout the design phase, coordinating everybody, making sure the schedule is adhered to, reviewing the estimates at the different milestones of the design process. If you look at the schedule that I put together, we have a schematic design phase, we have a design development phase, we have a construction phase, or a construction document phase, and after each one of those, there's going to be an estimate. So we want to make sure that throughout this process, the design team is designing what you can afford and what you want as a project, and put the emphasis and the dollars into the categories that are important to you as the owner, to be spent. You want to spend your dollars to what in areas that are important to you. So that's kind of in the design phase. That's what we would be working on. Like, one of the things that we would do is the schedule that we've put together so far is not very detailed. It's just got a lot of milestones. We would expand on this schedule and work with the design team and with the CMR to include more milestone dates, such as board approval, reporting to the board, coming back in front of the board for their approvals, and then we will give you specific dates for that, so you know what to anticipate and when all these approvals are going to be coming your way. So once we get beyond the design phase, we will work with the construction manager at risk during the bidding phase to make sure that we have a lot of competition from multiple subcontractors to be bidding on the project. So we would, work with them on that aspect of it. We will also work with them when the bids are received. We will review those bids with them, make sure the scope of work is there, make sure your interests are protected, make sure we're getting enough competition on each component of it, because what's going to happen is this project is going to be broken into multiple bid packages, from the earthwork to the concrete to the masonry to the steel, et cetera, and we're going to have multiple bids for each one of those components, and we will be reviewing the bids with the construction manager at risk when they come in, to make sure that the scope is covered, the numbers are there, and protect your interest. When construction starts, we will be obviously working with them, making sure there is some quality controls on the site, make sure that the construction is getting done according to the plans. When issues come up, we will address those with the design team as well as with the contractor. We will come back to you as the owner, and we will, if there is decisions that needs to be made, we will come back and give you the different options. We will give you our recommendation, but the decision will be yours at the end of the day. You will decide how you want to handle things that come across. And by the way, that process is valid across the board. One important thing and I want to make sure that everybody understands is, we as your owner's rep do not have authority to make decisions on your behalf. All the authority that we have is an advisory authority. So if there is anything that needs a decision to be made, we are going to come back to the owner, to you as the owner, and we're going to give you the options. We're going to give you a recommendation. We're going to wait for you to make a decision. Once you make your decision, we will take that decision and we will implement it, with the rest of the team. That's our role. Our role is to coordinate things, work with you, address issues that come up, give you options, give you different ways of doing things and recommendations, and then wait for your decision, and then, you know, take your decision and implement it. So going back to the construction phase, we will be coordinating with, you know, with the team. Any concerns, any issues that come up, we will be working, you know, hand in hand with them. And again, if we need decisions to be made, we'll come back to you as the owner and ask you for these decisions. Throughout the course of construction, as well as during the design phase, we will also going to be interacting with the city, because we're going to need to coordinate a lot of different things with the city. During the design phase, we're going to make sure we're coordinating with them as far as the approval of the drawings and the documents, issuance of a building permit. And then once that is issued and we start construction, we want to coordinate with the city for all the inspections that are going to take place on a regular basis, all the way leading up to the completion of the project and issuance of the occupancy permit, so you can occupy the building. So we will be coordinating with the city on your behalf and with your administrative team throughout the course of the design as well as construction project. At the end of the project, after completion, we're going to make sure that all the training is taking place for your facility staff, for the maintenance, the different people are going to be involved with that. We will facilitate the scheduling of the training. We will also make sure that all these training sessions are recorded. We are using a videotape method nowadays of these training session, and that's a good thing for you as an owner, because once they're taped, if a year down the line your maintenance staff forgets about something, they can go back to the video, you know, refresh their memory, kind of figure out what's needed. Or if you get new maintenance staff on board, it's a good orientation for them to sit and watch those videos and make themselves familiar with the different equipment that's in your building. We'll also make sure that all your warranties are issued properly and they're put together in a nice binder where you can reach to them. Your facilities director can reach out and any warranty that's needed, whether it's a roof or a mechanical or electrical component, and then in order to be able to call upon the manufacturers for that. So this is a little bit of in a nutshell, what we would be doing in the different phases of the project. We also have had experience with public entities as far as working with them and providing them the information they're going to need for the bonds and the monies to be issued. There's going to be some questions that we will be able to help your administrative team. Sorry about that. We will help your administrative team fill in the blanks, because there's going to be some questions as part of the issuance of the bond that are related to the construction, duration, potential estimates, different components that will not be available through the construction manager at risk, because they probably won't be on board for another month and a half or 2 months. So we will be able to help with that and work with the administrative staff on it to keep the ball rolling with your issuance of the bond and securing the funding.
Thank
Any
you.
questions?
I think one thing I wanted to also bring out, and it came up, I had a couple of questions about this related to this. So as everyone here knows, we did a concept design working with Bialowski Cleveland. And that was, you know, just to get us through the levy phase. And I wanted to make sure everyone is aware that this clock starts over. So now that we're in the process of this, that's part of what this owner's rep, what Roger's going to be working on with us, is that real RFQ to get the design professionals on board. So obviously anyone who wants to put in those qualifications. But just, I wanted to make sure everyone understood that part of it too. That we'll be doing a full-blown RFQ process.
So when you say we're going to do the full-blown RFQ process, that means with Roger's team? Roger's team's leading that?
So we were actually discussing this earlier. So what their well, I guess I could just defer to Roger to say what your role will be during the design professional selection process. Maybe you could go over that.
Sure. So basically, for the request for qualifications, we will work with your administrative staff to put the request for qualifications together. We will make sure they're published in the newspaper, as well as the Builders Exchange, Dodge Report, and all the areas that we need to publish them. So A, you meet the requirements of the Ohio Revised Code, and B, we can generate enough enthusiasm and enough responses to it. So that's one thing that we will do. That applies for both the architect as well, the design team, as well as the construction manager. Once the RFQs are issued, we're going to get responses. Our role at that point in time is not 100% defined yet. It'll be up to the board and the administrative staff to decide if you want us to play strictly an advisory role, or if you want us to have a seat at the table during the interviews and during the selection process. But what we will do is we will review the proposals as a minimum and give you our recommendations for the different proposals, as well as a list of questions to be asked, during the interview process to help through that. If you want us to have a seat at the table, we'll be more than happy to be one of the people that's going to be part of that committee that's going to review and rank the request for qualifications and ultimately lead to a selection. Once the selections are made on both the architect and the construction manager, we then will work with whoever you as the board select as your architect and your construction manager to start defining the schedule, further develop the schedule, take what we have as a start and fine tune it, and start with the design process and start coordinating, the design process that's going to lead into the bidding phase, that's going to lead into the construction phase.
All right, thanks.
I have one question. Did we consider doing this as a design build project as compared to what you're describing, Roger?
I think that you could still follow that path if that's what you choose. You would still need an owner's rep to be part of that. I personally think that a design build project for this particular project, I would not recommend it, and I'm going to give you a quick reason why. If you do a design build, basically you're going to lose control of the design aspect of it, because now whoever is going to be leading the design build, you'd have to do what we call design criteria. And that's going to be part of the RFQ for the design build. But you as the owner will not be in direct contact with your design team. You will be part of meetings, but you're not controlling your design team. Your design team will be under a contractor that is going to be, leading the team. So on smaller size project or projects that are not library, where you have a lot of operational components to a building, design build works well. If you're doing something like a I don't know, maybe like a warehouse type or some facilities where it is really not, it's a fairly simple, you got an office in the front, you got a warehouse in the back, you really don't need to have a lot of design input as the owner. I think design build works well, but for this particular project, you as the owner want to have direct impact and direct contact with your designers, with your design team, because of the nature of your operations, the furniture layout, the shelving layout, where's your entrance going to end up being, because It could potentially change from where it's at now. There's a lot of integral components to this building and to the design aspect of it that, in my opinion, you as an owner want to have direct impact and direct contact with your design team, not have to go through a design builder to get to your design team.
Just to follow up on a question earlier about the involvement of the board. So that is something that Roger and Dr. Thomas and I were discussing earlier as to what will the board's involvement be. We were discussing what the time commitment would be for folks who would want to be very engaged in the selection interview process. Obviously, when we shortlist firms for these big decisions, that's going to, of course, be committee of the whole board considering those. But Roger, maybe if you could share what you were sharing with us earlier about what a time commitment would look like, you know, for our board members on these, for this process, at least the first few months.
Sure. So basically, I mean, there is going to be several meetings that are going to take place through this. Let's talk about the RFQ selection process as a start, and then we can talk about the design. So we're gonna receive the proposals. Those proposals are gonna have to be reviewed, and then interviews are gonna have to be set up. Obviously, typically those interviews usually happen during, you know, working hours. So there's gonna be quite a bit of time commitment that's gonna have to take place, and we need, in order to keep things moving. And if you look at the schedule that we have put together, it's a pretty aggressive schedule, but I think we can make it happen. I think the important part to look at with that schedule is when we're going to break ground for this building. I'm already thinking about that because we live in Cleveland, Ohio, so we have to contend with weather, and we want to be able to break ground in April, May, or June. That's the window that we have. We don't want to get too far into the summer to break ground, because then on the back end of things, we're going to be hitting winter. We're going to start spending money on winter weather protection that we really don't want to. So if we can hit that target of ideally the month of May of breaking ground, that's going to allow us 6 or 7 good months of construction weather. It's going to get us under roof so we can do the finishes during the winter time. So the reason I'm talking about this is to backtrack. To get there, we need to have the design team on board by sometime towards the end of August. So if you look at the schedule that I would put together, you know, issuance of the RFQ, receiving of the proposals, and us and the committee sitting down and interviewing and selecting, we'd like to hit that target date. So whoever is going to be on the selection committee from the board needs to be cognizant and aware of those timeframes and of those dates, and the fact that in the month of July and August, there's going to be a time commitment that they're going to have to be able to provide to the process in order for us to hit those target dates. Is that answered, Anastasia, or you want me to go further?
That's good. I just wanted everyone to understand. So just to get a feel for that, because it's, you know, like you said, we want to stay on the schedule, and we want to balance that with making sure that the board has every opportunity to be involved in the process as much as you would like to be.
I mean, one thing that we don't want to do, we don't want to be the stumbling block delaying the design team and or the construction manager. We want to keep the process moving.
If there are other questions.
Normally originally, we were looking at the potential, Roger had spoken this morning, we had a conference call, and ideally, we were discussing potentially 2 board members being on this initial committee. We also looked at the Finance, Audit, and Properties Committee, which Keith is the chair of. Tiffany and Monica are on that committee as well. Because we are a 7-member board, when we get into the phases of actually looking to hire, an architect or whatever, those are all full board activities. The other thing is we've always included the full board in any of the activities that we're doing. The part that's a little different here is going to be the time sensitivity and being available on weekdays to either attend conference calls or meet in person or meet on the telephone. So, we want to have people who have potentially some experience in this, or having the availability that they can leave whatever they're doing at work or whatever, at least one of the 2 people if we head out in that regard, or are we going to want to do something different? Because I did ask him what was the, hardest thing for someone as an owner's rep to deal with. And it's going to be time management with decision-making on a board level. If we cannot micromanage, if we're going to hire an owner's rep, we need to work in conjunction with that person, and remembering that we have our administrative staff involved with this, like Rick and Cheryl and Anastasia. So it's going to be, I wanted to have just a little bit of a discussion on what your feelings were on this, because it's going to change a little once we get through that first hiring. So what kind of questions, concerns, what are your feelings about the initial few people that are going to be involved in this, and how you would like to see it conducted, or what your thoughts are on it? Because Roger's on this call, he plans on being at whatever board meeting we need him at. And if we don't, then it would be in every other month. It's going to be depending on what is happening at the time. So questions, concerns, or Anastasia has anything to add, or anyone else in here that Lisa's been through this process. We've been through this a few times together. So I don't know about Rick, he might have with his fire department and things of that nature, and the college.
I just have a question, Carolyn. So
Sure.
Even when you have the small, let's see, the committees and whatnot, usually how it works is that they still report back to the full board, so that we're always in the know, even if we're not present.
Yes.
That all the information will be available, and we will always know what would the next step be.
Correct.
Okay.
Absolutely. Because as he said, the decisions come from the board. I mean, we're the ones hiring the owner's rep. We're the ones with the responsibility. But we're going to have board representation to keep this process moving along, with the advent of taking things back if we feel that we need a full board discussion or whatever. But you all know from your working lives, I'm going to be blunt, the more people that you have and have to consult with eventually can slow some things down. So when we, appoint people and then have people come back, it's with, I think, a fair amount of confidence that those individuals are representing your values and your goals. But all of the decision-making will be the board's. Now, if I'm misrepresenting that, I need Roger or Anastasia to correct me right now.
You are not. From my perspective, you are not. This is what you stated is very accurate.
I guess at this point, I would like to, Anastasia, are you still thinking what we were discussing today about looking to finance, audit, and properties? Or do we want to ask who here believes that they would like to be involved in this initial, you're going to be involved in it the whole way through. But there may be a lot more from the sounds of it and what you looked at in terms of the actual schedule that was sent out to us today. There's going to be a fair amount of interaction during the next 6 to 8 weeks.
Right, we were talking, I mean, obviously the folks, I would ask the folks on the Finance, Audit and Properties Committee to be involved, because I think, you know, your expertise is going to be critical to this, because we're going to be, you know, dealing with things that you know about. So I think that will really help us. And obviously, like you were just saying, all those reports go back to the board. The board's involved always as part of it, but I think that would, me, I would like to ask those folks on the committee to be part of this process. So I guess I'm looking at you, Keith.
Yeah, no, I think I should have, for the next, we're talking through August, right?
Yeah,
Yeah, I think that would work for me.
okay. That would be great.
Gloria, did you have a question? Because I saw a light up. You have a question?
Oh, yeah, I just sent it to you though, but okay.
Go ahead. Public.
My only thing, I know that when we did committees anyways in the past, that they was always open that if, let's say Ethel just wanted to go to this, hear what was happening or whatever, she would also be allowed to enter into this committee. Or are we going to just cut it off that these are the only ones and then they come back to us?
No, I think open it up and anyone who wants to join. So I think, is Tiffany available as well? Because she's got some great experience, I think, as well. And then we just open it up. We share the schedule and anyone can come up, because we're going to be meeting with Roger and Anastasia and Richard, I assume.
Okay, that's what I want. Sure.
I assume it'll work.
Mhm.
Tiffany, are you able to meet at off times, or like if Roger needed us at noon, or does your schedule permit flexibility?
Yes, it sure does. I'm happy to be involved as best as I can and offer whatever, experience I can to the project. Definitely can do so. As far as keeping things going and whatnot, like Gloria asked, open it up to the board. I know that becomes too many board members in one room, becomes sunshine problems. So then you have to call a committee meeting and that becomes a problem. So do we really want to keep it open to everybody, or are we going to say it's 2 people assigned to do the interviews and everything else? Otherwise, interviews are open. So it's something that I'm taking into consideration as well.
Committee meetings of the board are public meetings.
Right.
We have to follow the sunshine law.
Right. So I think the thought here is that if 2 members of the board would be part of the committee that is formed with the administration, and that would be different than a committee meeting of Finance, Audit and Properties. I think that's what you're saying, right?
Which is what I would suggest, because I think otherwise you're going to run into a lot of scheduling errors and whatnot. You call committee meetings, then you don't have quorum, then you can't run the interviews, and it becomes messy if you have a committee quorum. So I would suggest just 2 people from the board. And if somebody's truly interested and really wants to be on this, I'd be happy to step aside. If not, I'm happy to step in and do that.
Same here.
Yeah, that would work best. So on our team, obviously Cheryl's here, Rick, me, and then we'll bring in Erica as we need her, obviously. But I think that would be my preference, if the 2 of you would be part of our committee, our staff committee that's going to be working on this. And then obviously decision-making on these things comes back to the board, but we could do a lot of that work initially, I think.
Yeah.
Now, I want to make clear so that there's no misunderstanding that when it comes time to hire the architect and those important positions, the board is involved. The board is involved in that. It's not going to be the 2 people that are just assigned to this, and I don't even know what the name of this actual is, committee that we're putting together with Keith and Tiffany now being the 2 representatives. But when we actually do interviews for the architects, correct, Roger? That's how we do it. We're going to bring it to the board.
Yes. So what you just described is the best way to do it is to have 2 board members assigned to the committee, and to the review committee, okay? And that review committee would be the 2 board members, some of the administrative staff, I'm sorry. And then if you want us to be part of it, or you just want us to be an advisor to it, it's entirely up to what you guys decide. Then from there, that committee is gonna do some shortlisting. They're gonna review RFQs. They can report either to the board directly, or they can report to the finance committee that you were referring to. I'm not sure how that works on your end, as to after everything is reviewed. And at that point in time, we can get some more feedback from the board, and then you ultimately can take it back for the board to make final decisions as to who the selected architect and construction manager at risk are going to be. So that's
Roger,
we can work through those details, you know, after the committee the selection committee puts our heads together and figure out what's the best process to communicate back with the board. You know, I can't say that.
Yeah, Roger, I wouldn't call, so let's don't call it a select committee, right? So it's kind of, it's a working group, right? So Tiffany and I are part of this working group with the administrators and you. And then in that Gantt chart we're putting together, you should have some milestones and some gate reviews, and those gate reviews should be the full board. And they can be, right? And then that way, we're just a working group. We're giving our input, our expertise.
Correct.
But ultimately, the decision would come back to those gate reviews. So you set those up in your Gantt chart. I looked at a little bit of it.
We would definitely, that's what I was talking about, fine tuning it once we have the group put together and get the input from everybody and have some dates set up and how it's going to work out. Absolutely, we will let, and then this way the board will know when we will be coming back to them with, you know, whatever you want to call it, recommendations or findings or reports or however you want to label them.
And it could even be a monthly scheduled board meeting. I mean, it can coincide with that as well. If not, we get something special, but I think that just keeps it going.
Absolutely.
Does that meet what you're thinking, Carolyn?
Well, we were thinking a few things, and we're just trying to keep the process moving, and making sure that the board is comfortable with a process like this because it's different than what we've done before. So to be quite frank, if anybody has concerns or, you know, anything, I would prefer that they talk about it now. If there's any other ways that you think it could be done, just so that we have all the questions answered and the concerns out there, that there's, you know, straight away that we can just start going on it.
Or add more to the working group if someone else on the board wants to be a part of that too. Now's a good time.
That's true, but I think what I thought I heard from Roger today is that 2 people representing the board is the better number. Again, the more people we start adding to this, it's trying to mesh schedules and times and whatever. We have to have confidence in the 2 people that were selected. That's the way I look at it. And trust that you'll bring back to us. And we've always had an open group. The transparency is here. We can always have a meeting as we need it and follow the rules and regulations of the Ohio Revised Code to do it. And we can have it here or in person when we open. I'm just wanting everybody to be honest with their feelings, that they feel comfortable moving through this process at the beginning this way. That's all. So if we, you know, don't hear anything or I don't read anything in a chat of any other additional concerns, then I'm going to think that everybody is comfortable with it. But we thought that then before, I can tell you from being on here a while, this type of process would go through the Finance, Audit, and Properties Committee. That would be the committee it would be assigned to. Just like when we were doing our searches for the CEO, it went through the Personnel Committee or the Nomination Committee. So this would be the committee that it would be through. It's just making sure that people are committed to the time and the responsibility, if they can do that in their work schedules. So are we in uniform agreement that that Tiffany and Keith will represent the board in this beginning review committee, or whatever name it's going to be called, working with Roger as the owner's representative and the administrative staff?
I agree.
I agree, Millie.
I agree.
Okay, Keith, you're committed, and Tiffany said she's committed, and I'm in agreement as well. So Roger, that's who you'll be working with, along with our administrative staff. And, I'm looking forward to a really interesting results as we move through this, in a really great building as we move through, because it is a lot of work. It's a lot of moving pieces and moving parts to it all. So, okay. Are there any other questions or concerns for Roger? Okay, hearing none, Roger, you're more than welcome to hang out with us here if you would like to do that.
If you don't need me for anything else, I'm gonna excuse myself and try and catch up on some emails.
Okay, thank you so much.
Thank you, appreciate it. Good evening.
Have a good evening.
Okay, then if there are no other questions, or Anastasia, you don't have anything else to say about this, you're good with what we discussed?
Yep.
Okay, then I'm going to move forward with the agenda. We have to take a roll call on that one though. Item 2020-055, we need to do a roll call.
Right. Dr. Padilla,
Aye.
Colonel Belanger,
Yes.
Ms. McClellan,
Yes.
Ms. Torres,
Yes.
Ms. Sheeman,
Yes.
Dr. Thomas.
Yes. Item number 2020-056, extension of the lease agreement with the City of Avon for the Avon Branch Library building. I need a first.
This is Millie, so moved first.
Thank you. Second.
Gloria, second.
Thank you.
Okay, so as I linked to the original lease agreement that we have with the City of Avon, this was something that was discovered as it was just about to expire last summer around this time. And it's just an extension of the existing lease. We have a lease on the Columbia building as well. So the way the lease is written, we can do 10-year renewals for it. But when I spoke with the mayor last year, and the law director and the finance director, the thought was to extend it for 2 years. So even though it's only 1 year from today, it's 2 years from 2019, which would be the end of June. So the thought was by that point, we will have figured out with the city exactly the nature of how that building either will be transferred to us, how we're going to do construction, and all of that will be figured out by then. All the contracts will be signed. So our thought was the lease will expire just as all of that stuff has been worked out. So rather than do a 10-year extension, we agreed on a 2-year. So nothing else is changing about the lease. The city doesn't want to change anything else about it. It's just a renewal because we realized that it was expiring. So that's really pretty straightforward, I think.
Oh, I guess I'm lost here.
Okay.
So it's just to extend this till we get the construction in and then we sign a lease, or how is that going to work?
So what we discussed in the past was the city transferring the building and the property. That's our ultimate goal, is to have that happen. But because we haven't had all the lawyers involved to negotiate how that transfer would work, this is just buying us some time for that to happen. So with us, passing the levy, and we're going to be issuing this notes and all this construction part of it, it's better for the library to own the building, obviously, if we're going to be putting a lot of money into working on it. So this is just, like I said, just buying us time. Our intention is not to sign another lease. Our intention is to own the building by the end of this process.
And when will we be able to get
confirmation?
Do we have anything that we are looking at?
Well, so my thought was get this over to them, and then we can start talking. Lisa and I were emailing with Becky Princehorn over at Bricker and Eckler about this. So once we get this settled and we've satisfied the city that the lease agreement is extended, then I think we're at the point where we can start talking to them about what it looks like to transfer the library to us. Like Becky already started looking into it, and they can't really give us the building. We have to essentially get the lawyers involved now. But I think we have to do this first in a good faith effort, because right now we're essentially without a lease. So, yeah.
Okay. Thank you.
I did send them, last year when we discovered this, there wasn't time to bring it to the board. So I did speak with the mayor. I sent an email just to make it all official and public record that we were intending to extend the lease. So it's not like, when I say we don't have a lease, we do have something. It's just the city needs you to approve this so that I can send this to them, that you've approved it, because you're obviously you are the entity that's entering into the lease agreement, not me. So you need to sign off on it.
Okay, correct. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, if no other questions, then we'll do roll call.
Dr. Badillo,
Aye.
Colonel Belanger,
Yes.
Ms. McClellan,
Yes.
Ms. Torres,
Yes.
Ms. Sheeman,
Yes.
Dr. Thomas.
Yes. Item number 2020-057, appointment of new staff.
Gloria, so moved.
Keith, second.
And this is to satisfy everybody we need in the fiscal office with a big smile on my face.
Over.
Okay, roll call.
Dr. Padilla,
Aye.
Colonel Belanger,
Yes.
Ms. McClellan,
Yes.
Ms. Torres,
Yes.
Ms. Sheeman,
Yes.
Dr. Thomas.
Yes. Item number 2020-058, purchase of hold lockers for the Avon branch.
This is Keith.
Tiffany.
Moved.
Tiffany, second.
So we've done this with the other branches. We've noticed that just through the curbside that we've been doing for the last few months, that the curbside usage at Avon is really high, which tells us that we think the Avon community is really going to respond well to these hold lockers. So that's why we wanted to get this going, so we can get them in place as soon as possible.
Okay, roll call.
Dr. Badillo,
Aye.
Colonel Belanger,
Yes.
Ms. McClellan,
Yes.
Ms. Torres,
Yes.
Ms. Sheeman,
Yes.
Dr. Thomas.
Yes. Lisa, I will let you read item 2020-059.
Okay. It's a resolution approving a written post-issuance compliance policy in connection with the issuance of tax exempt and tax preferred obligations by the library. And I'll explain it after the first and second.
This is Millie. So moved.
Ethel, second.
And this resolution, it's standard when you go out for note issuance. It outlines the policies and procedures to promote compliance with federal income tax and securities laws. Policy strictly follows the U.S. Constitution and laws and the Ohio Constitution and laws. Basically, when you go out for a bond issue or a note issue, there's arbitrage. So if, let's say, we're paying the investors 2% interest and we're making 4% through the bank, we have to satisfy it we have to pay income tax on it. I don't foresee that happening the way the interest rates are right now. And I don't see that's going to happen once we're done with the project, paid for everything, I don't foresee that that's going to be a problem. And back in the 80s, 70s and 80s, early 70s, late 80s, that was a problem, but that's not a problem anymore.
Unfortunately.
Unfortunately, yes, for sure. And this is because it's a tax exempt bond.
Okay, roll call?
Dr. Badillo,
Aye.
Colonel Belanger,
Yes.
Miss McClellan,
Yes.
Miss Torres,
Yes.
Miss Sheeman,
Yes.
Dr. Thomas.
Yes. No, if there's no other business that needs to be brought to the attention of the board this evening, I thank everybody for attending and all of our staff. The next regular board meeting will be either streamed on YouTube or maybe we'll be lucky to meet in person. That will be July 16th at 5 p.m. So I want to thank everybody for your hard work. I want to thank Lisa again. And we're very grateful to Lisa in that she is also going to mentor Erica and that we have a really good staff in our finance department now. So I want to thank you for all that you bring to the library system.
You're welcome. I love the library.
I know you do. And you love especially the Lorraine Public Library system.
Yes, I do.
Yeah, so we have to make you an honorary something of our library system.
I still use my Lorraine Public Library library card.
Oh, that's fun. Good. We have great e-media. I can sure tell you because I use it a lot. So with that being said, thank you, Lisa. And we will officially adjourn at 6:23. And thank you, Joel, for setting all this up. We appreciate it.
Yeah,
Thank you,
well,
Lisa.
Thank
Thanks,
you,
Lisa.
Lisa.
Merci beaucoup.